The skies above Velmarine were always red, a dull, burning red that never changed. The sun here didn't shine kindly. It watched like a silent enemy, and the dust below never settled. Commander Jace Thorne stood at the edge of the steel balcony of Sector 7, watching alien workers below carry heavy crates through the dirt. Most of them were small, thin, and weak-looking. Some had green skin, some blue, but all wore the same dark hooded cloths, uniforms of silence and submission. Humans had won the great alien war 50 years ago. Now, aliens served under human control. No one questioned it. No one cared. JACE wiped the sweat off his forehead and sighed. He was tough, built like a soldier, sharp eyes and a sharper tongue. He didn't hate aliens, but he didn't respect them either. Commander Thorne, a voice called from behind. He turned. A younger officer stood in front of him with a strange expression. Your new assistant has arrived. I didn't ask for one. Jace grunted. Direct order from General Merrick. She's different. Before Jace could reply, the girl was led in. She was small, even for an alien. Her hood covered most of her face. She walked slowly, head bowed, hands together in front of her. She didn't speak. Her clothes were worn and her boots dusty. JACE frowned. This is a joke, right? The officer shook his head. She's yours. Name. The girl looked up slightly. Her voice was soft, barely louder than the wind. Lyra. That was it. No last name. No race details. Nothing. Jay stared at her. He expected the usual alien smell, but there wasn't any. In fact, he couldn't feel anything about her. She was like a shadow, standing still. You speak basic? Lyra nodded. You follow orders? Another nod. Fine. Jace muttered. Stay out of my way. Don't slow me down. She nodded again, but her eyes, barely visible under the hood, caught his attention. For a second, he thought he saw blue light. Must have been the sunlight. He thought that evening. Jace walked through the corridors of the command bunker. Lyra followed quietly behind him, her steps light, almost like she wasn't even touching the floor. He hated silence, and she was full of it. He stopped suddenly. You afraid of me? Lyra didn't answer. He turned. I asked you something. She looked up, and her eyes met his for a brief second. Jace felt a strange chill. No, she said calmly. I'm not afraid. Then speak up. She nodded again, but said nothing else. JACE shook his head. Aliens. Always so strange. The next morning, a message arrived from High Command. It was sealed and marked top priority. Jace opened it. His eyes moved quickly over the digital lines. You are to travel to ruins of Sertan. Hidden relic. Must retrieve before enemy spies locate it. Take your assistant. Do not delay. He stared at the message. The ruins of Sertan were dangerous. Even seasoned soldiers didn't go near them without backup. But orders were orders. Jace turned to Lyra, who stood by the door silently, waiting. We're going into the wild. You know how to use a blaster? No. Can you run? Yes. Good. Let's see if you're more than just a shadow. As they moved through the outer gates, soldiers whispered behind Jace's back, Why's he taking that thing with him? Probably punishment from the general. She's creepy, doesn't even blink. Jace ignored them. He glanced at Lyra. She didn't react to the whispers. She just walked beside him, calm and silent. The sun hit her hood again, and for a brief moment, just a flicker, Jace saw symbols shimmer on her cloth. Your robe, he muttered. What are those markings? Lyra didn't answer. You deaf now? She simply said, you'll understand soon. That answer made something twist inside his chest. Not fear, something older, something like a warning. That night, they camped under an iron sky near the edge of the ruins. Jace couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about her. Who was she really? Why would the general assign her? There were stronger alien workers, fighters, soldiers, not quiet girls with glowing eyes. He glanced over. She sat by the rocks, staring at the stars. The wind moved her hood slightly, and for the first time, he saw a part of her face. Her skin wasn't like any alien he had seen before. It shimmered like silver water, and her eyes, they weren't just blue. They were like tiny galaxies swirling inside Dot, and right then, Jace knew she wasn't just a servant. She was hiding something much, much bigger. And tomorrow, the truth would begin to rise. The morning air over the wastelands of Belmarnai was colder than usual. Dust blew in soft waves across the cracked metal paths, as shadows of ruined towers stretched far over the barren sand. Somewhere in that silence, Commander Jace Thorne stared at the message again. His fingers hovered over the command tablet, its blinking screen repeating the urgent words. Ruins of Sertan, recover the relic, take the assistant. Do not delay. He muttered under his breath. Why her? Lyra stood quietly beside him, hands folded in front, her hood still hiding most of her face. Her stillness was unnatural, not from fear, but from knowing something. He did in single quotes. Jace finally spoke. Pack your things. We leave in 30 minutes. Without a word, Lyra nodded and turned. The journey began at dawn. Jace's armored vehicle sped past dry valleys, past forgotten machines half buried in sand, and over the broken bridges of ancient wars. Beside him sat Lyra, silent, watching everything. Her eyes never blinked, not once. Jace tried to break the silence. You ever been outside the central colonies? Lyra's voice was calm. I'd have seen the world from higher places. Higher places? He raised an eyebrow. That a joke? No. She said simply, just a truth you haven't lived. Jace stared at her, confused. She didn't sound like a regular servant. She didn't behave like one either. He decided not to press further, not yet. By nightfall, they reached a checkpoint near the certain exclusion zone. A tall guard stepped out, wearing old war armor with symbols from Earth's intergalactic forces. No one goes past this line without clearance, the guard barked. Jace raised his badge. The guard scanned it. The device beeped, then turned green. The guard looked at Lyra. She doesn't look like military. She's with me, Jace said firmly. She's an alien, the guard said with disgust. Jace narrowed his eyes. She's also under direct orders from General Merrick. The guard stepped back. Your funeral. As they passed, Lyra whispered softly, "He is afraid of me." Jay smirked. "He's afraid of losing control. That's all." But even as he said it, a strange doubt crept into his mind. What was it about Lyra that made hardened soldiers uneasy? The terrain changed as they moved closer to the ruins. Trees appeared, black, lifeless ones, twisted into unnatural shapes. Old machines like dead beasts lay scattered across the land, their metal bones cracked and rusted. Jace stopped the vehicle at a cliff overlooking the ruins. Below, he saw it, Sertan, once an alien city, now broken into stone and memory. Tall spires lay in half, like snapped fingers pointing at the stars. Strange blue energy flickered between pillars, and in the center stood a large, sealed gate. "This place gives me the creeps," Jace muttered. "It remembers pain," Lyra said. He turned to her. "What?" "This place was not destroyed by war. It was silenced by betrayal." Jace stepped out of the vehicle and adjusted his gear. "Let's get moving." The closer they walked toward the gate, the heavier the air became. It wasn't just the wind. It was something deeper, like the planet itself was watching. Jace's boots echoed across stone steps. Lyra followed behind, her footsteps completely silent. When they reached the center, Jace saw strange writing, carved into the gate's stone. "Can't read this junk." "I can," Lyra said. He turned. "You read ancient Velmari." She stepped closer and placed a single hand on the stone. The moment her fingers touched it, the writing glowed, soft, blue light spreading like veins across the entire gate. Jace stumbled back, hand reaching for his blaster. "What the?" Lyra didn't move. Her eyes were closed, lips whispering something in a language long forgotten. Then, with a deep rumble, the gate opened, not unlocked, not broken. It obeyed her. Jace stared in disbelief. "What the hell are you?" Lyra turned toward him. Her hood slipped slightly, revealing a part of her cheek, silver markings glowing softly beneath her skin. "I was once a guardian of this place," she said quietly. "Before your kind burned it." Jace's heart pounded. "That's not possible. This ruin's been abandoned for 50 years. You can't be." Lyra looked at him with deep, star-like eyes. "I am older than your war, older than your planets. Victory? I was hidden until now." Jace stepped back, his training kicking in. "You're one of them, a hybrid." "Not anymore," she said. "Now, I am simply awake." Suddenly, a sharp noise echoed through the ruins. Jace turned. A shadow moved in the distance, fast, quiet. "Get down," he shouted, pulling. Lyra behind a broken column. Blaster fire erupted from above. Enemy drones swarmed from the hills. They weren't from the human military. They were mercenaries. "They followed us," Jace growled. "Not you," Lyra said. "They followed the relic. They were waiting for someone to open the gate." Jace fired the rounds, blasting a drone out of the sky. "Then let's hope you've got more tricks up your sleeve." Lyra stepped forward. Her hood finally fell. Her face glowed with ancient symbols, her silver blue skin shining like polished moonlight. Her eyes flared with bright cosmic energy. Even the machines paused midair. Jace stared in shock. She raised one hand, and the wind bent toward her dot. Then everything exploded into light. For a moment, everything stood still. The sky above the certain ruins pulsed with a strange blue light. The earth trembled softly, like it was remembering something it had long forgotten. Even the enemy drones, cold and ruthless, hesitated in the air, scanning the alien girl who now stood revealed. Lyra's hood was gone. Her face shimmered with silver skin, and her eyes glowed like twin galaxies. Strange markings danced on her cheeks, alive, not tattooed, moving like flowing rivers. The energy around her twisted the wind, the dust, and even the light itself. Commander Jace Thorne had fought in 7 off-world battles. He had seen men vaporized, ships fall from orbit, and mutant beasts tear squads apart. But he had never seen anything like her, Lyra. He whispered, What are you?" Her eyes turned toward him, soft but filled with something older than time. "You already know." Jace aimed his blaster at a hovering drone, fired, and ducked behind cover. "They're still coming." He barked, "You better be more than just pretty lights." But Lyra didn't hide. She walked forward, raising both hands. The wind roared. A crack of thunder burst from the sky, but there were no clouds. The ground around her shimmered, and suddenly a barrier of light formed in a wide circle, blocking the drone's fire. Laser bolts crashed against it, vanishing like water on fire. Jace watched in shock. "You're not just a servant. You're a weapon." "No," she said softly, holding the barrier in place. "I was once a protector, until your kind destroyed everything." As the drone circled above, Lyra raised her left hand again. This time, her fingers spread in a strange motion. Symbols in the stone pillars around them began to glow, one by one. As if answering her call, JACE looked around. "You're waking the city up, aren't you?" She nodded. "It remembers me." The drones made another dive. Jace aimed and shot to more out of the sky, but there were too many. "I can't hold them all off." He shouted. "You won't have to," Lyra said. She whispered in the ancient language again. Suddenly, the ground beneath the broken ruins shifted, large slabs rising, opening slowly like ancient doors dot from beneath the surface. Hovering sentinel orbs rose into the air, old alien tech long thought destroyed. They lit up with soft blue light and faced the drone's dot. Then they attacked. Blue energy sliced through the air as the orbs struck down the drones with terrifying precision. In seconds, the sky was clear. Jace stood up slowly, staring at the aftermath. The ancient defense systems were still working, and they had responded to her. The silence that followed was heavier than the battle. Dust settled. The lights dimmed. The glowing markings on Lyra's skin faded to a soft hum. She sat down on a stone bench. Tired. JACE didn't speak at first. He just walked over and sat across from her. "I think I deserve answers now." She looked up, sadness in her eyes. "I was born here, before the war. Before the humans came. My people were called the Valari. We were not fighters. We were the keepers of balance. We held the knowledge of energy, of time, of creation." Jace frowned. "But Valari are extinct." "No," Lyra said. "We are forgotten." She looked out toward the broken city. This was once our capital, Sertan. My mother was high keeper of the relics. My father was a speaker of light. When the humans arrived, they feared what they didn't understand. They attacked. My family was killed. I was hidden deep beneath the temple. She paused. I slept for years in the stone, until someone finally touched the gate. You mean me? Jace asked. Stunned. Double quotes. No, she said, looking at him. It wasn't you. It was the relic calling for me. It woke me. And then General Merrick sent you. Jace leaned back. His mind was spinning. You're saying the General knew you were alive? Lyra nodded. He found the data years ago, but he didn't tell your people. He wanted me for himself, to use me. Jace cursed under his breath. So I was a pawn. No, she said gently. You were a witness. Suddenly, Jace's communicator buzzed. Incoming transmission, General Merrick. He accepted the call. Merrick's face appeared on the hologram, stern and cold. Commander Thorne. Status? Jace hesitated. We found the ruins. We were attacked. Drones of mercenary class. Merrick didn't blink. And the relic? Jace glanced at Lyra. We found something. But sir, this isn't just tech. It's alive. Merrick leaned forward. Commander, bring the asset to me. Immediately. Do not speak of this to anyone. Sir, she's not a weapon. She's a person. Merrick's voice turned dark. That's an order. Commander, don't grow soft, or you'll find yourself on trial for treason. The transmission ended. Jace sat still, heart racing. Lyra stood slowly. He's coming. Yeah, Jace whispered, and I don't think he wants to thank you. They packed their supplies quickly. Jace couldn't think clearly. His mission had turned upside down. He was trained to follow orders, to fight, to protect humanity. But now he had to choose, obey the general, or protect the girl who saved his life. As the wind picked up again, Lyra turned to him. You must decide soon. Decide what? He asked. She stared into his eyes. Whether you will be the hero, or the reason I'm hunted again. The sky turned steel gray above the ruins of Serdan. A windstorm was coming. But it wasn't the weather that made Commander Jace Thorne nervous. It was General Merrick, the man who sent him here, the man who lied. Jace stood at the edge of the ancient platform, staring at the rising sand in the far distance. He didn't need binoculars. His gut told him exactly what was coming. Merrick wasn't just sending orders anymore. He was coming himself. Behind Jace, Lyra knelt on the stone floor, her hands placed over the circular pattern carved into the ruins. A forgotten map that only she could read. The gate has unlocked, she whispered. The relic lies beneath. U.S. Jace turned, discoding his face. I don't know who I'm protecting anymore. Lyra, you. The humans or the truth. She looked up. Then protect the one who cannot protect themselves. The wind howled. Hours earlier. General Merrick had stared at the glowing screen in his ship's war room. His jaw clenched. She woke up. He said to his second in command, Yes, sir. The officer replied. The commander confirmed visual contact. Merrick's eyes narrowed. She was supposed to be dead. She wasn't. Merrick slammed his hand on the table. Then we end this before she remembers who she really is. Orders, sir. Prep the Omega pod. I want her alive. And if Thorn gets in the way, the officer Gold. Understood. The warship Leviathan changed course. It roared through the Velmarin sky like a falling hammer. Back at the ruins, Jace heard the sound long before he saw the ship. Boom, boom, boom. Each thundering pulse shook the old stones. He looked at Lyra. She stood now, eyes glowing again, hair rising slightly as if touched by unseen forces. They will not ask you questions, she said. I know, Jace replied. They'll just take you. She stepped toward him. You do not have to fight them. You only have to tell the truth. But the truth wouldn't save her. Jace had served with Merrick. He knew the man's heart was made of steel and war. Merrick wouldn't care that Lyra had saved them. He wouldn't care that she cried when she spoke of her people. He only saw power, and Jace had just become the last man standing between that power and the one who wanted to use it. The Leviathan hovered above the ruins, sending out massive waves of heat and sound. Then, with a hiss of steam, its ramp opened. Dozens of black-armored soldiers marched out in perfect silence, their helmets shaped like insects, their rifles glowing with red light. At the front was General Merrick. He looked older than Jace remembered, white streaks in his hair, but his back was straight as ever. Cold eyes scanned the ancient stones until they landed on Lyra. So, he said, his voice rough, the stories were true. Lyra did not move. Merrick stepped forward, past his guards. Commander Thorn, he said, you've done well, despite your delay. Jace didn't answer. Hand her over. No. That single word cut through the wind. Rick blinked. Excuse me. Jace stepped in front of Lyra. She's not an object, not a weapon. She's a living being. She saved me. She saved this ruin. And she has more honor than most men I know. Merrick smiled, a slow, cruel smile. You've fallen under her spell. No, Jace said. I've opened my eyes. Merrick raised a hand. In 1 second, every soldier raised their rifles at Jace. Lyra stepped beside him, her presence calm but powerful. She is not a soldier, Jace said. She's not even fighting you. That's what makes her dangerous, Merrick replied. He snapped his fingers. The guards rushed forward, fast, trained, merciless. But as they neared Lyra, her eyes flashed, a burst of energy through the soldiers back 10 feet. Still, she did not attack. I do not wish to hurt you, she said softly. But the Leviathan's command systems had already locked onto her energy signature. Jace knew what was coming. Get back, he shouted, pushing her behind the pillar. A loud boom echoed as a missile struck the side of the ruins, blowing ancient stone into the air. Dust and fire covered the ground. Lyra hit the ground hard. Jace scrambled to cover her. Merrick marched forward. Take her now, he roared. But before the soldiers could move, the ground cracked beneath them. Ancient systems, older than war, awoke. Blue lines appeared in the stones, rising like veins. Glowing brighter and brighter, from the heart of the ruin, a voice echoed. Not human, not alien, something in between. She is of the core. She cannot be taken. Everyone froze. The soldiers looked around, their rifles lowered slightly. Merrick's face turned pale. He whispered, "The relic is her." Jace turned to Lyra. She was standing again, taller now, not in body, but in presence. Light swirled around her. The markings on her face glowed like constellations. "The relic is not a thing," she said gently. "It is memory. It is power. It is balance. It is me." Suddenly, Jace understood. The map, the stone, the code. She was the final piece. The weapon was never built. She was. "Born Dotmar," Rick growled. "I don't care if you're a god. You belong to me now." He raised a special device, a shock suppressor, and aimed it at her, but Jace moved first. He fired his blaster. The device shattered in Merrick's hand. The general stumbled back, hand bleeding. Jace pointed his weapon at him. "Stay down, sir." Silence. Even the wind paused. Merrick's soldiers looked unsure. Some lowered their weapons. Others took a step back. Then Lyra spoke. "I will leave now, and I will not return. But know this, if you chase me, if you send men to harm others like me, this world will remember my scream." She raised her arms, and in a flash of blue light, she vanished, gone. Nothing left behind but soft glowing dust. Jace stared at the empty space. Merrick clenched his jaw. "Find her now." But Jace turned away. "I'm done taking your orders." He walked out of the ruins, past the stunned soldiers, into the wind, where the girl had gone. A girl who once wore a hood and changed the world without lifting. A single weapon dot the desert winds of Velmarnine whispered through the broken ruins of Sertan. Dust circled the ancient stones like ghosts remembering their names. The soldiers had gone. The Leviathan had lifted off Dot, but Commander Jace Thorne stayed behind. He sat alone on a stone ledge near the glowing gate, staring at the place where Lyra had vanished. No one spoke of what happened. Merrick had been humiliated, but he still held power. He would never admit he was wrong, and yet he had left the ruins in silence, bleeding and defeated. But Jace couldn't forget her. She had been everything he didn't believe in, kind, powerful, and deeply human despite being alien. And when the entire army had turned against her, she hadn't fought back with violence. She fought with truth. She chose mercy. Dot, and now she was gone. 2 days later, Sector Command just stood in front of a tribunal. 3 gray-haired officers sat behind a glowing table. Their faces were stone, their eyes harder than steel. "You disobeyed a direct order," one said. "You fired at your superior officer," said another. "You endangered the recovery of high-value tech." The third added. Jace didn't blink. It wasn't tech. She was alive. A person, and I did what was right. "Commander," the middle officer sighed. "You're lucky the general didn't press charges. You're being reassigned, effective immediately." "Where?" Jace asked. The officer looked at his data pad. "Outer sector, post 39, dust patrol." Jace nodded slowly. "Punishment. Not prison, but exile. Still, he didn't regret anything." "Dismissed," the officer said. Jace stood, saluted with pride, and walked away without another word. Post 39, edge of the Planet station, was quiet. only for guards, a faulty radar dish, and endless wind. Jace didn't mind. He spent his evenings looking at the stars, hoping to see even the smallest flicker of blue light, a sign that Lyra was out there. But weeks passed. Nothing came. He started to believe maybe she was gone for good, like a dream he'd only imagined, until one night a signal reached the station, a whisper buried deep in static. Jace leaned over the old communication panel, adjusting the dials, filtering the noise. He heard it again, soft, ancient, almost like music. Then a voice, "The stars remember you." His heart jumped. He pressed the transmitter. "Lyra, is that you?" Silence. Then, more clearly, "I left something behind. A place where the truth sleeps. Go to the Forgotten Tower, west of Sertan, alone." Then the signal cut. Jace didn't wait. He packed water, a sidearm, and a map. He didn't even tell the others. This wasn't their journey. The journey west sun was brutal. The path was full of broken terrain and old war mines, but Jace pressed on. He followed the ancient markers carved into the rocks, the same markings he'd seen glow under Lyra's touch. Each step brought memories flooding back, her glowing eyes, her calm voice, the power she never wanted to use, and the pain she carried so quietly. He reached the tower at sunset. It stood like a jagged spear, half buried in the sand. No doors, no lights. Just silence. He walked around it, touching the cold stone. Then, suddenly, the markings lit up. A soft hum echoed through the air. A door opened. Inside was darkness. Then, slowly, the lights flickered on, soft, blue, like her eyes. He stepped forward into a narrow hallway, walls covered in moving patterns. Each wall displayed memories, not his, hers. Jace stopped at one. A child, Lyra, running through a glowing garden, laughing. Another wall showed her people, the Valari, in peaceful harmony, singing, healing, teaching. Then came the war, flashes of fire, screaming, humans in metal armor, ships falling from the sky. He turned away, heart heavy. This was her past. This was her pain. He moved deeper. In the center of the tower stood a stone table. On it, a single item, a crystal. He picked it up. Suddenly, a vision hit him, a memory, not his, but hers. He saw Lyra standing before a circle of Valari elders. "You are the last of the core," they said. "If we fall, you must sleep and wait." Then he saw her hiding in the stone, crying as her world burned above. Then him, Commander Jace Thorn, walking into the ruins for the first time. She had watched him. She had chosen to reveal herself to him, not because of orders, but because he was different. Because in his eyes, she saw something her people believed had died long ago. Compassion. The vision ended. Jace stood there, shaken. He whispered, "You trusted me." And now she was giving him her final gift, her story, her truth. As he left the tower, the sun was rising. Jace looked to the horizon. He didn't know where Lyra had gone. Maybe she was on another world. Maybe she had returned to the stars. But now, he knew what he had to do. He would tell her story, not as a soldier, not as a hero, but as a witness. The galaxy needed to remember her, not as a weapon, not as a threat, but as a girl who chose peace over power, truth over fear, and compassion over war. And maybe, just maybe, she would hear him someday. The desert winds moved gently now. There was no warship above, no soldiers patrolling the ancient ruins, and no more orders echoing through Commander Jace Thorne's comlink. Just the quiet hum of remembrance. It had been 6 months since Lyra vanished in a flash of light. 6 months since Jace turned his back on everything he once believed. Now, he traveled from sector to sector, from dusty outposts to crowded space stations, carrying nothing but a single mission: tell her story everywhere he went. People listened. At first, they thought he was mad, a former soldier, dishonorably reassigned, rambling about a glowing alien girl and a forgotten city that spoke. But then, the stories began to match. Miners on asteroid V7 claimed they saw a light drift across the sky like a falling star that hummed a strange melody. Farmers near the edge of the red belt reported crops blooming in salt lands, followed by whispers in a language they couldn't understand. A scavenger in the coral moon swore that his broken shovel was repaired overnight, with markings on the hull that glowed like constellations. Everywhere there were signs, not of war, not of power, but of her. Jace found himself standing before classrooms now, halls filled with children and young cadets. His voice no longer barked commands. It shared truth. He spoke of the Valari, a people of peace. He spoke of Sertan, a city buried in silence. And he spoke of Lyra, not as a relic or a weapon, but as a girl who hid her power not out of fear, but out of wisdom. She had every reason to destroy. Instead, she chose mercy. And in that mercy, she showed the universe what true strength looked like. One day, a message reached him, encrypted. Ancient code. It came through an old satellite dish, bouncing off forgotten towers before reaching his tab. It was a sign, but he knew it was her. The message was only 3 words: "It has begun." Jay sat in silence, holding the device tightly. "She's still out there," he whispered. Meanwhile, far from the eyes of humans, deep within the drifting nebula, a hidden world began to bloom. Its surface shimmered like silver glass. Trees pulsed with light. The air was soft like memory. At its center stood Lyra, not in hiding, not afraid. She stood tall before hundreds of beings, not just Valari, but other forgotten races too, once silenced by war, now slowly gathering again. Some had thought the Valari were myths. Others feared them, but now they listened, because Lyra had returned, and she did not come as a queen or a weapon. She came as a bridge. The time of silence was ending. Across the stars, old knowledge was awakening. Maps once sealed began to open. Cities once ruined began to hum again. People once hunted began to rise. Not for war, but for something higher. Back on Velmar. Jace returned to the ruins of Sertan one last time, not to fight, not to uncover relics, but to plant something. He knelt down in the soil near the gate, the same gate that had once lit up at her touch, and he placed a small seed, a single flower she had shown him in a vision, glowing blue, soft as breath. Grow, he whispered, so they never forget. And then he looked up at the sky. The stars were brighter than ever. One of them pulsed not just once. And in that moment, Jay smiled because he knew she saw it. He stood and walked away. The desert wind behind him died, and far above, hidden beyond the clouds, a light moved gently across the stars. It was not a ship. It was not a weapon. It was a memory. It was her and the stars. They remembered her name. Forever. It began on a day no different from any other. The Galactic Council Hall on Central Earth buzzed with quiet tension. Military leaders, scientists, ambassadors from allied planets all sat in their marble seats. Under the golden dome, screens blinked, voices whispered, reports were exchanged. No one knew that everything was about to change. They were reviewing another minor rebellion from a border colony when an officer rushed in, pale and breathless. "There's a signal," he stammered, "from beyond the veiled zone." The hall fell silent. The veiled zone was considered dead space, destroyed during the final years of the alien wars. No one lived there. No one sent messages. Until now. "What kind of signal?" a counselor asked. "Not a distress call," the officer replied. "It's a broadcast. Full spectrum, clean, beautiful." The room darkened. The broadcast played, and the stars began to speak. The image on the screen was a wide, glowing field, not metal, not stone, but something alive. In the center stood a woman, silver skin, blue glowing eyes, a robe like flowing light. It was Lyra. Gasps spread across the room. She stood with grace, not power. Her voice echoed across every speaker, in every language, in every heart. "I am not your enemy. I am not your weapon. I am not a myth. I am a memory of what was, and a warning of what may return." Behind her, thousands of beings stood in silence. Valari, Drakari, Yelquin, and other ancient races thought long extinct. Together, they were forming something new. Not a rebellion, a return. On Velmar 9, Commander Jace Thorne watched the broadcast from a dusty outpost. Soldiers around him sat frozen, their food forgotten, their weapons untouched. Jace didn't blink. "She did it," he whispered. "She's not hiding anymore." Back in the council hall, panic began to rise. "She's threatening us," a general shouted. "She's calling the lost tribes to war." "No," said one of the alien ambassadors slowly. "She's calling them home." Another screen lit up. It displayed coordinates. Not military targets, but places of history. Ruins. Burial grounds. Forgotten temples once erased by war. Lyra's message was simple. Let the truth be known. Let the lost be remembered, or the stars will mourn you next. The broadcast ended. Silence filled the golden dome. Then a voice, steady and calm, broke through. It was General Merrick. Surprisingly, he stood without anger. "She warned us once," he said. "We didn't listen." The council looked at him in shock. He turned to them. "She could have destroyed us in Sertan. She had the power, but she walked away. We tried to hunt her." He looked down, and now We must ask ourselves, do we want peace, or do we fear voices we can't control? News of the broadcast spread like wildfire. Miners laid down tools. Soldiers paused training. Children asked their teachers about the Velari. On hidden worlds, refugees stepped out of caves, blinking into the light for the first time in generations. And in that rising hope, something amazing happened. Humans began to listen, not all, but enough to question the stories that were told, enough to wonder if Lyra's people were never the enemy, just the ones who lost their voice. Jace soon found himself requested for interviews, speeches, and panels. He refused most, but one day he appeared at the Galactic Peace Assembly. He stood on stage. The hall was packed. He looked tired, but proud. "I don't speak for Lyra," he began. "I couldn't even if I tried. Her voice is older than our machines, wiser than our maps." He paused, but I saw her. I stood beside her, and I'll never forget what she said when everyone pointed a gun at her. Jace looked out over the crowd. She said, "I do not want to hurt you, but I will no longer hide from you." He took a breath. Maybe that's what peace truly is. Not hiding, not running, just standing in the open and being seen. The room erupted in quiet claps, then louder, then a standing ovation. On that same night, in a field of stars far beyond any charted map, Lyra stood on a balcony of crystal, watching. Her silver eyes blinked slowly, and a small smile touched her lips. Not because she was proud, not because she had one, but because they were finally listening. In the sky above Velmarinine, a new constellation appeared, soft, blue, glowing faintly. Jace noticed it one night and whispered to himself, "She's still writing stories." Asterisk, asterisk, and so ends the tale of the girl once mistaken for a low-rank alien, a girl who wore a hood to survive, and who removed it to change the galaxy.